Manishma, what's up, Anashim, the people and family, Mishpachah, Shalom Yahudim, Mashalom Ha, Mashalom Ka. I greet you all this Yom to all the Ba'id house of Yasharel, all the Goyim and Goy coming out of paganism, all the Goyim feeling alienated, but now being grafted in to the Ba'id Yasharel. Shalom Aleikum, Shalom Shalim. Welcome to the Eliyahu channel. Hallelujah. We give praise and honor to Abba Yah for this opportunity to come to you via the internet and stream. Allow the HaRuachEliyahu to teach us, and as we read openly and flow freely in the Parashat, to come to the understanding of Torah and the right rule instructions. This Parashat Lech Lecha of going out for Abram to Abraham, we're going to start from Genesis 12, went all the way to chapter 17, ends at chapter 17, verse 27. And Yeshayahu, if we have time, 40, 27 to 41. Now, in this Parashat is the comparison of Abram to Abraham and the covenant promises. If you notice, I don't like to do the parashat just giving you a verbal commentary like many of the rabbis do in the rabbinical community. I like to read it, and we can follow along in your scriptures, whatever scriptures you use. And then also, I like to use the correct words to bridge you and get you out of the unclean words of this Germanic, French, English / with multicultural mixture of Latin letters of words, and many of them are paganistic in origin. So I like to, without being judgmental or anything, I want to bridge you out. So we're going to go ahead and, as you see here, this is the replacement theology correction of those words. These are only a few of the correction of these pagan words that have been implanted in the English with Latin letters of all forms of other paganism. So without being critical or criticizing or mocking or any way putting people down, this reading we do, and I show you this in the beginning, because we want to bridge you out of the Catholic, Apostolic, Roman, Latin, Greco-pagan words that even rabbinical and messianics use, and I want to give you an edge and teach you the correct English clean words, even clean Greek words and English words to use, and especially the Hebrew words. That's what we want to bridge ourselves to speak the Hebrew words. And you could speak English clean without saying these pagan words. You know what I mean? You can always do it. So instead of grace or gracious, you could say unmerited favor. You know what I mean? Instead of faith, you could say, which is the deity fat or pistis, we use the word, which is belief and trust. And you're talking to people, you can use belief and trust. You can use unmerited favor. They'll understand you, and then they'll ask a question, and you have the opportunity to say, well, those are pagan deities, and we don't want to use them, because in the Torah it says, don't mention the name of other mighty ones. So now, welcome to the Eliyahu channel. Praise Abba Yah for this opportunity to be with you and to share with you and love you and bridge that gap of understanding. And I just want to open in prayer. Baruch atah Yahuwah Eloheinu melech haolam. We just pray right now, welcoming in the presence of the HaRuachEliyahu in the midst of us, and allow your anointing to be with the people there as it is here with me. And we allow the HaRuachEliyahu to flow through us and take these lips of clay from me right now. And when I read the Torah of this Parashat Lech Lecha, that you will give us revelation, quickening of anything else you want to put in and stir up in the gifts of the HaRuachEliyahu to minister to others, to hear the word. And we receive this edification today of this weekly Parsha. And we thank you, Abba, for this portion of Torah we're about to read. And we thank you and praise you. And we ask you to edify the believers and encourage them and strengthen them and fill them with your presence. And we pray for healing, miracles, signs, and wonders to anyone that needs a healing, especially of the emunah. We cast down imaginations of every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Yahuwah, and bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahuwah. Hallelujah. And we renounce the hidden things in the darkness, as it says in Corinthians 11, and we put on the new man, renewed, washed and renewed in the mind of the word, in the Shem of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen and amen and amen. Hallelujah. So we're going to go ahead and start where we left off. Now, we're not going to do what we did the last time. We're not going to do what we did the last time in this parsha. This parashat, where I was reading the Yasher in the beginning. This parashat is strictly in Bereshit, in Genesis, and we're going to read the 5 chapters and go through because there's some detailed stuff I need to do, and it would be too long and too many parts. And then what I'm going to do is I'm editing and preparing another parashat of Lech Lecha of nothing but Abraham. Full story based on Sefer Yasher, because when I did the count and looked at it, even though I read Sefer Yasher several times before, there's a lot of pages, and it's going to be probably 2 parts, maybe 1 hour, and another part 45 minutes. I don't know. So, and there's some areas here in Parashit I really want to express to you, especially from Zorah to Sodom and Gomorrah, and the depth of those words of understanding and the rulers there. But so I'm going to go ahead and just read from Genesis, Parashit this time, and then I'm going to add in the next few days another portion of Abraham's story, and it'll be based on Sefer Yasher, the detailed, exciting stuff that went on with Abraham from a young man growing up and going to be mentored and taught and mentored from his Abba, from his grandfathers and great-grandfathers, and from Noah and his sons, and to be mentored into right ruling. So that it's going to be exciting to read that Sefer Yasher portion of this parashat of Abraham to go out, but I just want to keep it separate. So stay tuned. In a few days, we're going to have the other one out too. All right, praise Yah. So let's go ahead and go to Esor, the call of Abram to Abraham and the covenant. And so now, this is a very important covenant. You got the covenant of Adam and Hawa. That's why they had skins, and we've been following the skins, which we're going to see more of it, of the sacrificial lamb that covered them of their sin. And then you have the covenant of Noah. Now this is the third covenant. So that's why you never say Old Testament and New Testament, testamento, first of all, because the word testament is a Latin Catholic legal word for last will, and our covenant is a living covenant, everlasting covenant. It is not somebody that died and went away. It's somebody that's alive. It's someone that has a covenant that's living and alive even today. So this is the third covenant with Abraham, and we're going to read from chapter 12, verse 1, but I just wanted to verbally tell you of chapter 11. Verse 26 to 32 is actually, let's see, the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 9 to 13 chapters alone in the Sefer Yasher. Just those verses from chapter 11, 26 verse to 32 verse, to get to the first verse of chapter 12. It's got all those other chapters and long chapters in the Sefer Yasher. And we're going to look at the detail a little bit more as we go back. We saw a little bit the last time, Parashat of Noah. But we're going to get into more detail in Sefer Yasher of that breakdown. But we're going to begin according to the Parashat in Genesis of Bereshit, chapter 12, verse 1. And Yahuwah said to Abram, "Go yourself out of your land and from your relatives and from your father's house to a land which I show you, and I shall make you a great nation, and barakah you and make your name great, and you shall be a berekot. Verse 3. And I shall barakah those who berekot you, and I shall curse him who curses you, and in you all the clans of the earth shall be baruch. So Abraham left as Yahuwah had commanded him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. Now, this portion is found in Yashar chapter 13, but there's more information from his year of his 50s, his 30s, 40s, and 50s, and Yahuwah appeared to him another time when he was in his 50s, and that there's more information of him telling him he went out with his father first, then he went out again the second time, which you're going to see a little bit here, but we're just going to go ahead and flow with Genesis, a better sheet here. Verse 5. And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the beings whom they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Morah. At the time the Canaanites were in the land. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said, to your seed I give this land. And he built there an altar to Yahuwah who had appeared to him. And from there he moved to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And he built there an altar to Yahuwah and called on the name of Yahuwah. You've got to remember, he got mentored. He got mentored from his Abba that knew the name, and even before the flood they knew the name. And he's confessing the name and speaking the name. And there's some people say the name didn't appear until Moshe, but that isn't, you read it in Hebrew, it's a different understanding of that, with their twisting of the scriptures. The name was being spoken, and Abraham was calling on the Shem, the name of Yahuwah. And Abram set out, continued toward the south. Verse 10. And a scarcity of food came to be in the land, and Abram went down to Mizraim to dwell there, for the scarcity of food was severe in the land. And it came to be, when he was close to the entering Mizraim, that he said to Sarah his wife, see, I know that you are a fair woman to look at. And it shall be, when the Mizraimites see you, that they shall say, this is his wife, and they shall kill me, but let you live. And of course, in Sefer Yashar, it runs down more details of that understanding how beautiful she was, even in her older age. But you got to remember, they were in their 70s, she was in her 60s, he was in his 70s at this point. Please say you are my sister, so that it shall be well with me for your sake, and my high be spared because of you. And it came to be, when Abram came into Mizraim, that the Mizraimites saw the woman, that she was very fair. And Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and cattle and male donkeys and male and female servants and female donkeys and camels given to her for her. But Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house and with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why do you not inform me that she was your wife? And you share, you're going to see a whole, almost half a chapter of many verses in detail that are missing here of information. Verse 19, and why do you say she is my sister? And so I was going to take her for my wife. Look, here is your wife, take her and go. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. And he didn't take nothing back. he let him move on and gave him the goods. Because of the story, there's more detail. Abiyah was they were cursed with barrenness. There was a curse on the land. There was a curse on the land so tremendous, he was pleased to get them to go. Okay. Chapter 13, verse 1. And Abram went up from Mizraim into the south, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. And Abram was very rich in livestock and silver and in gold. Of course he was. Got compound, stacked and packed up with Medicut, especially after he left Pharaoh. Okay. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. Genesis 13:4, Bereshit, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first, and there Abram called on the name of Yahuwah. So there's a few years separation here. You're going to see in Sefer Yashar how many years gap there is, okay, where he returned back to his place. And there's a reason, because he went off course a little bit, and when you get off course, you go back to your first love. You go back to the first basis of your covenant, where you did your first sacrifice, first slaughter, your first offering, freewill offering, or commitment to Yahuwah, and calling on the name of Yahuwah. And Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land. And Abram said to Lot, Please let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Now, in the Sefer Yashar, there's a long draw of that strife that was going on here. Of course, this is found in Sefer Yashar, chapter 15, 35 through 36. Is not all the land before you? Verse 9. Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I will go to the left. Verse 10. And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of the Jordan. That was Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahuwah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Yahuwah, like the land of Mizraim, as you go toward Zoar. So it was like the Nile, and it was beautiful. There was living waters flowing. Everything was beautiful. This before it became the Dead Sea and everything else. It was very beautiful and green and flourishing. There's more details in the book of Yashar as well. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of Yarden, and Lot moved east. Thus they separated from each other. Verse 12, Abraham dwelling in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelling in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent as far as Sidon. Now, dwelling in the cities. You're not going to believe what's going on here, but let's go on and read. But the men of Sidon were evil and sinned before Yahuwah exceedingly so. And after Lot had separated from him, Yahuwah said to Abram, Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward, eastward and westward. This is Yahuwah speaking to Abram. For all the land which you see, I shall give to you and your seed forever. And I shall make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be counted. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. And Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and he built an altar there to Yahuwah. And Hebron is, that's where our Abbas from Adam and Hawa, Aaron, Shek, Jacob, and Sarah. Chapter 14, verse 1. And it came to be in the days of Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, Arioch, sovereign of Elasar, Kedorala Omar, sovereign of Elam, and Kedal, sovereign of Goyim. So Kedal is the sovereign of the nations, sovereign of Goyim. I just want you to see for a minute here in verse 14 that they fought against Bera, sovereign of Sidon, Bersha, sovereign of Amorah, Sinab, sovereign of Admah, Shem Eber, sovereign of Tishboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zorah. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. Now, I want you to look at this for a minute, and I want you to get some revelation here. This is part of one of the reasons why I wanted to share this with you and open it up, of the meanings, of the revelation of the meanings of each of these characters. Okay? If I go here to, and Bera was a Sodomitish king, Bera. And Bera, basically in Hebrew, Berah, which means he is a Sodomish. He's a Sodomite. That's what Bera means. And that's his name, all right? And he was a Sodomitish individual that was the sovereign of Sidon, which means scorch, burnt, all right? As you see here, Hebrew number 5467, root meaning to scorch, burnt. He was the sovereign of the city of scorched, burnt, Sidon, all right? Or Sodom, as we say in the scriptures, all right? So let's keep looking at the names of these individuals. I have a video specifically of it, but since we're in the Parashat, I'm going to go through it quickly. Now, and the other one is Bersha, and Bersha is the name of that sovereign, and it means with wickedness. He's wicked, all right? And the root word is iniquity, wicked, all right? And he's the sovereign of Gomorrah. Now, who wants to be the Sodom of a scorched, burnt city, or a Sodomite from a Sodomite king, sovereign, and his Amorah, or Gomorrah, as you say, ruin heaped. It's a ruin heap. Who wants to be a sovereign of the city called ruin heap? Well, it's almost like the city of Los Angeles, which means lost angels, and during the days of the Spaniards, it was a mosquito-infested swamp, and they named it the city of the fallen lost messengers. Okay, but people still live there, and they don't know, they don't realize what the meaning means. And then you got Sheneb, and Sheneb is another sovereign, and it means your father has turned. The father has turned. Primitive root to alter. He has altered his DNA. He has altered his agenda. He has altered himself. The Father has altered, all right? Shin ab. Reading right to left. Ab is father. Shin means altered or turned. All right? Bear with me what I'm going to share in here. Okay? And he's the sovereign of Admah. And of course, Admah means earthly. Abba means very fleshly, earthly. And then there's the Sodom, the messenger of Shemeber, that is illustrious Shemeber, king of Zeboim, Shemeber. But Shemeber, okay, illustrious one, when I did the root search in Hebrew, look what it says, Shem, Eber, Shem Aber in Hebrew. Shin, Mem, Aleph, Vet, Resh. Shem Eber, okay? Which Eber means the name of the long-winged, illustrious one. All right? Now bear with me now, unless you saw my video already on it. The next one is Zeboim. And Zeboim is gazelles, but the root word is a splendor, gazelle, beautiful, pleasant, and that's the name of the city. The sovereign was Shemeber, the city was Zeboim. Now these are all perverted cities. And the next one is Bela, where you get the word uh, Biblos, Bible, Biblos, Bela rules. It's a deity of Bela rules. Biblos is the city of Bela ruling. Bela, the name of the place of Anamite, okay, which means gulp, destruction, devouring, destruction, swallow you up. All right. Of course, is the small city Zora, which means the little city. Okay, little. All right, small. Looking at this passage, these names, it's very how should I say, very important to look at the order it was written and the order it was given. Lot went to those cities. He started off in Zorah. That's the outer skirt when you look in the map. And Zorah is the little city. A little leaven the whole lump, little city. In that city, Bela rules. The deity Bela will swallow you up and devour you. Zobaim, splendor and pleasant. That's the next city, and the name of that sovereign is Shem Eber. The name Eber, Shem, but you say Shem Eber, illustrious, long-winged person. So when you first go to the little city, it's a little sin, not bad. You get swallowed up. And Zobaim, the splendor, pleasant city, is ruled by the winged, the long-winged, illustrious sovereign. That's right, long-winged, illustrious sovereign. And then you get to the city of Amma, which is earthly, and you got Shinab. Your father has turned. He's turned his genetically. He has, it said, as we read earlier in the Hebrew, he's changed his gender. All right? And then you got Gomorrah, or Amorah, ruin heaped. And then the sovereign of that place is Bersha. It's pronounced actually Birsha in the phonetic sound in Hebrew. Birsha, like beer, Birsha, with wickedness. Ruin heap, wickedness. And that's Amorah. And then you got, by the time you get into the main capital city of Sodom, it means scorched, burnt up, sodomitish. All right? So you go from the little city that will swallow and devour you up, and the splendor of its city, ruled by the illustrious winged sovereign, long-winged sovereign, you become, eventually go to Admah, become earthly. Shinab, father has turned, he changed his gender, turned his gender, and Gomorrah, a ruin heap. By then you're a ruin heap. In Bersha, the sovereign there is full of wickedness, and then you enter the city of scorched, burnt, and become sodomitish. So that is the order from the outskirts of the little city all the way through. Okay? And we should have never left Zorah, the little city. A little sin leaves the whole lump. All these join together in the valley of Sidon, and this is the Salt Sea, or we call the Dead Sea. Verse 4. 12 years they served Kedorala Omer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. Now, this is all linked to Nimrod. It doesn't show it here, but you're going to find out what these names of these sovereigns and these rulers are. They're all governors and rulers and generals and people of other cities and places under the governorship or the rulership of Nimrod. He's still around. In verse 5, and in the 14th year, Kedorala Omar and the sovereigns that were with him came and smote the Raphaim in Ashtaroth. So they smote the Raphaim, the giants, and Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emites in Shaweh, Keryath Ayim. Forgive me if I'm destroying these names. Verse 6, and the Horites in the mountains of Sur, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they turned back and came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hatzon Tamar. Now, I can't show you all the words in Hebrew to give you an understanding of kind of the stuff that is placed here. Now, you see this word Kadesh? It means, it says here in the first portion, not the Hebrew root of 6946, it says a sanctuary, a place in the desert. You say a sanctuary, what do you mean? Well, what do you call a temple? What do you call a place of worship? A sanctuary, right? Or a place of refuge. But when you look it up in the Hebrew, the root word 6945, it means a sodomitish male prostitution, a devotee to the temple sanctuary of male prostitution. And that's Hebrew number 6945, which is Kadesh, which is the sanctuary of the male prostitute temple. Okay? And smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hezron Tamar, and the sovereign of Sodom, and the sovereign of Amorah, and the sovereign of Admah, and the sovereign of Tishboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zorah, went out and joined together in the battle in the valley of Sidon. Now, they're actually fighting and rebelling against governors and sovereigns that are under Nimrod. Okay, against Kedorah Omar, sovereign of Elam, and Kedad, sovereign of Goyim, and Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, and Amraphel, the mighty one, sovereign of Shinar, Ar-Yok, sovereign of Elasar, 4 sovereigns against 5. Okay, and this one is Tidal, sovereign of the Goyim, being sovereign of the mixed nations. Verse 10, and the valley of Siddim had many tar pits, and the sovereigns of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. And they took, verse 11, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food and went away. And they took Lot, Abram's brother and son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and left. So he dwelt there. He dwelt in Sodom. This is where he dwelt. He dwelt in the inner capital city, scorched, burnt, sodomitish people. Okay? Because his children married, daughters married in. I guess there was men that were semi-straight, but the majority population and the government and the system was controlled by this sodomitish emperor. Verse 13, and one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they had a covenant with Abram. So they were part of Abram's crew, all right? He even worked with Abraham, and his name is there in the lineage of information in the scriptures. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house, and went and pursued as far as Dan. And he and his servants divided against them by night, and smote them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. Verse 16, so he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. Everyone was brought back. Abraham berekot by Melchizedek, the Zadok. In verse 17, and after his return from the defeat of Kedorah Omar and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sodom came out to meet him at the valley of Shaweth, which that is the sovereign's valley. And Melchizedek, we get the name of the Zadok or Zadok, Levin, Koheni, priesthood. Melchizedek, they say, Melchizedek. He's the Malak. Malkit means he's the sovereign of Zadok. Right rule, righteousness. Okay? Sovereign of Shalem, which is Shalom, which is Jerusalem. Brought out bread and wine. Now he was the priest of the Most High of El. He's the priest. Okay? He's the priest of the Most High of Yahuwah. Malaki Zadik. Zadik. You got a Yod and an A space with a Sadi and a Dalet and a Kuf. The sovereign of right rule, the sovereign of righteousness. Because you got Malak, sovereign, and then you got Zadik. Okay? Like we call somebody a Zeke. Zadik, Tomanim, Kodashim, man of Elohim. And he Berikot, or Baruch him, and said, Baruch be Abram of the Most High El, possessor of the Shemaim and the Eretz. Verse 20. And Baruch be the Most High of El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand, and he gave him a tenth of all. So Abram gave his miser, his tenth part, to Melchizedek, or the Malek of Zadok. He's the sovereign of being Zadok, or Zadik, of righteousness. And he ruled in Jerusalem. And the sovereign of Sidon said to Abram, give me the people and take the goods for yourselves. But Abram said to the sovereign of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to Yahuwah, the Most High, Mighty One, possessor of Shemaim and the Eretz. So I'm going to show you how it reads in the Orthodox translation. Verse 22, and Abram said to the Malak of Sidon, I have lifted up my hand unto Hashem, Yahuwah, Hashem El Elyon, Yahuwah, the Mighty One, Elyon, Creator, Shomaim ve'aretz, Shomaim ve'aretz. Go back to ISR. Verse 23, not to take a thread or a sandal, strap, or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. Except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with him, Aner, Eshcol, Mamre, let them take their portions. And in Yasher, that part was from Yasher 16:13. Now we're in chapter 15 of Bereshit, Genesis, which begins, well, it's actually chapter 16, verse 20 and 21, where it begins. So I'm going to show you each place of Yasher matching. Yah's covenant with Abram to become Abraham, and the blood circumcised tearing of the flesh. Verse 1, after these events, the word of Yahuwah came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, and your reward is exceedingly great. And Abram said, Master Yahuwah, what would you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Eliezer, Eli, which is like Eliyahu, which is mighty one, the mighty help of Yah. He's the mighty help of Yah. Eliezer, mighty help of Yah. Or help of Yah would be a better, like a clean translation of Eliezer, which we're going to learn where Eliezer come from. He was actually one of a commander and a mighty one of Nimrod's council and army. And when he saw the miracle of what happened with Abram coming out of the fiery furnace, that he joined him and brought his whole family and group and learned, he said, the mighty one of Abraham is greater than all the deities of the 12 deities of Nimrod. And he joined with Abram, which we're going to see the next session of Abraham's journey. Verse 3, and Abram said, see, you have given me no seed, and see, one born in my house is an heir. And see, the word of Yahuwah came to him, saying, this one is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir. Because he'd been with him since he was a young man when he left Nimrod. verse 15, verse 5. And he brought him outside and said, look now towards the Shamaim and count the Kokaim, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, so are your seed. So he's saying, not stars, Estara, the Greek word for a pagan goddess, Esther, Estaris, but he's saying the Kokaim, which also has the meaning and the expression of principalities. Look toward the Shamaim and count the principalities if you are able to count them. And he said to him, so are your seed going to be principalities. And he believed in Yahuwah, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. Because he believed, he had emunah, believed in trust, and Yahuwah reckoned it for righteousness. He reckoned it as a Zadik. All right? Verse 7. And he said to him, I am Yahuwah who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to inherit it. Verse 8. And he said, Master Yahuwah, whereby do I know that I possess it? And he said to him, bring me a 3-year-old heifer and a 3-year-old female goat and a 3-year-old ram and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. And he took all these to him and cut them in the middle and placed each half opposite the other, and he did not cut the birds. Verse 11. And the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. It came to be when the Shemesh was going down, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram. He's keeping all the blackbirds, the vultures, the evil spirits out of the covenant. He's keeping all the wickedness out of the covenant. I was training them and preparing them the covenant, and it's going to be a split covenant because circumcision means a splitting and a separation of flesh. But he had to chew away all the vultures, the blackbirds, all the different birds of prey, which we call, it's almost like a similar of wicked spirits trying to attack the covenant. A frightening great darkness fell upon him. Verse 13. And he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners. They would say goyim or goy in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Let's look at that, because sometimes it's goy, sometimes it's gar. All right, it says ger. See, the same word that they try to put this Catholic, modern Latin, gentilis, Gentile word on top of, which means nations, and it's not a bad word to be them of different nations because they can be grafted in. And he's saying that Abraham and his seed shall be sojourners in nations in a land that not their own, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them arba me'ot shana. It was 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with a great possessions. So he's letting them know that he's going to judge them. Verse 15, they're going to be punished, they're going to go through the persecution, but they're going to be that nation, the persecuted seed line. He's telling them the good and the bad and the ugly of what's going to go on to his children, his ancestry. Verse 15, now as for you, you are to go to your fathers in Shalom. You are to be buried at a old age. Verse 16, then in the 4th generation they shall return here, for the crookedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to be, when the Shemesh went down, and it was dark, that see, a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. And on the same Yom, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed from the river of Mizraim to the great river, the river Euphrates. Verse 19, with the Genite and the Genizite and the Gadmonite and the Hittite and the Parasite and the Rephaim, even the leftover of the giants that the other ones didn't kill off, all right, and the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Girgashite and the Jebusite. Chapter 16, verse 1. And Sarah, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a a Mizraite female servant whose name was Hagar. And we're going to find out who she is and where she came from. It's exciting to find out where she came from. She had a half royal blood, which I'm giving you a hint, which we'll see in the book of Yasher, who she was. And Sarah said to Abram, see, Yahuwah has kept me from bearing children. Please go in to my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarah. He should have not done it. He should have not done it this time. He listened to their wives. Yes, they have good things to say, but this is against the Torah. It was the law of the land. If that happened, that your wife could, she can raise her hand and find a woman for you to have a second wife and bear children to her. It was the law of the land. It doesn't mean the law of Yahuwah. Okay? In verse 3 of chapter 16, and Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mizraite, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. And Abram, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and he went into Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahuwah judge between you and me. You know, it's amazing here. You know, he listened to her and she's blaming it on him. Oh, you're the one. She's saying, you're the one barren, not me. She threw it on him, you know. And of course, this is based on Yasher, chapter 16, verses 23 to 33 and 34 verses, all right, on to 36. And Abram said to Sarai, see, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. Verse 7, and the messenger, the Malach of Yahuwah, found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way of Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from? And where are you going? In other words, girl, where do you think you're going? Huh? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. And the messenger of Yahuwah said to her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her head. Verse 10, and the Malach of Yahuwah said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the Malach of Yahuwah said to her, see, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Yishmael, because Yahuwah has heard your affliction. Amma gave him the name. He gave him the name. It wasn't an Egyptian name. It wasn't Hagar, who was a Mizraite. They gave him the name. Amma gave him the name. And Ishmael, which means the mighty one, El, the mighty one will hear. Hebrew number 3458. El will hear. Yishmael. El will hear. The mighty one will hear. Because she was praying by the well, crying out, don't you hear me? Don't you hear me? He said, okay, that's going to be his name. And he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. So, just like Arabic, tribes conflicting always against each other, or Arab tribes. And she called the name of Yahuwah, who spoke to her. You are the El who sees. That's the name she gave him, the mighty one who sees. For she said, even here have I seen after him who sees me. That is why the well was called Ber La Oi Roi. See, it is between Kadesh and Beret. And Kadesh is the place that got destroyed. Remember, it's the place of the sanctuary temple of male prostitution. 15, and Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore Ishmael. So he could have named his son another name. But she came back and told the story. He said, well, that's it. She got the revelation. Hagar got an experience with Yah, and she's coming into the knowledge of Yah. And if he said Amalek to give her the name, that's the name he's going to get. Because we're going to learn in the book of Yashar that Hagar was taught and mentored in Yahuwah of the right rule of Torah through Abraham teaching, Sarai teaching Hagar, okay, which we're going to see in the book of Yashar. Very important thing not to leave out. That's why she prayed. She didn't pray to a different mighty one. She prayed to Yahuwah. Verse 16, and Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. And it came to be when Abram was 99 years old now that Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. And this is based on the reference here on the ISR translation. Messiah gives the same command in Matthew 5:48. Verse 2, and I give my covenant between me and you and shall greatly increase you. Now he made that blood splitting of the flesh covenant already, but now he's going to give him a renewed name, and everything's going to change a little different here slightly. And the covenant's just being compound, pressed together, shaken and running all over. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke with him, saying, as for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many Goyim, or nations. Let me show you. It's not gentilis, this pagan Catholic word, Gentile, that the Pope and the rabbis agreed on to use as a form of separation. See? Goy. Goy for singular, Goyi, or Goyim in mass plural. Is the same word in this mass sense of massing foreign nation. Here it says Gentile, but you see how it is with italics, telling you it's not the original translation. Gentile is a Catholic Latin word. Verse 5, and no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, because I shall make you a father of many nations. Verse 6, and I shall make you bear fruit exceedingly, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be Elohim to you and your seed after you. So he's letting them know that it's an everlasting covenant, but even in their generation, he's going to renew and continue to renew and republish that covenant. Verse 8, and I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, and his everlasting possession, and I shall be their Elohim. So wherever he traveled, he wasn't just traveling. Abba was making him travel to know the boundary lines, to create his own map, because he stayed in different locations so many years or so many months and weeks. So he knew the boundary lines because he traveled in this sojourning. Verse 9, and Elohim said to Abraham, as for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. Verse 11, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between me and you. That's the beginning sign. A lot of people, even the Egyptians used to circumcise too, but that came later as they made covenant with Yah, as the Yosef, at that time, that was come in, and Mizrahites, Egyptians, did circumcise their men. And verse 11, and you shall circumcise the bazaar of your Aralah, and it shall be an ot brit, sign of the covenant between me and you, the bazaar of your Aralah. Verse 12, and a son of 8 Yamim is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with silver from from any foreigner who is not of your seed. So anybody in his household have to come under blood covenant. They're going to be Simcha, celebrating the feast together. And they go into Beshach, they have to be circumcised. Okay, verse 13 again. 13. He who is born in your house and he who was bought with your silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh, and an everlasting covenant. Everyone. 14. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of their foreskin, his hide shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. Now, we want to look at this a little bit better here in verse 15, because Sarai in Hebrew, all right, in the book of Yasher, it's chapter 18, verse 1 and 2, in this 15th verse, Bereshit, chapter 17. But Sarai is 8297 in Hebrew, and it basically means domination, dominative, a dominative woman. She likes to dominate. But now, since she had the child, or she's going to bear a child, her name will be changed to Hebrew 8283. Went from 8297 to 8283, which means a princess, a noble lady. So she went from a domineering, dominative type of personality to a lady, noble princess. Her name changed, just that one little short letter, all right, Sarai to Sarah, all right. That's how much the difference of the meaning meant. Verse 16, and I shall barakah her, and also give you a son by her, and I shall barakah her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. See, goyim, nations, plural. Goyi, but singular, goy. They say goyi, but goyim, plural, nations. And Abraham fell on his face, and Ishak laughed, and said in his lev, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 shana, and shall Sarah that is 90 shana bear? Awesome stuff, man. Praise Abba. And he said in verse 18, he's trying to use common sense here. Okay, what are you saying here? Let me throw this in. Verse 18, and Abram said to Elohim, oh, let Ishmael live before you. Verse 19, and Elohim said, no, Sarah, your noble princess wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yishak. Laughter. Since you laughed, his name is going to be laughter, and every time you see him, you're going to laugh. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. See, I shall barakah him, and shall make him bear fruit, and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, sovereigns, 12 princes, rulers, and shall make him a great nation. 12 clan leaders, 12 princes, just like the 12 tribes of Israel, Yasharel, there will be 12 tribes coming from Ishmael. We're going to see more details too when we get to your Sefer Yashir. Verse 21, but my covenant I established with Ishak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this time, set time next year. Verse 22, and when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham. Awesome stuff, man. Abraham took Ishmael, his son, and all those born in his house, and all those bought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. They meant Brit, covenant, the same Yom, as Elohim told him. Verse 24, and Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised that same yom. In verse 27, and all the men of his house, born in the house or bought with silver from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. So they all were circumcised. And see how it says foreigner? This is Nakar. Nakar, a foreign or foreigner, is different than, it's an alien, a strange alien. Some have are in Israel as a Nakar or Nakar that are what you call a visa card carrying welcome alien that's going to be grafted into Yisrael. It's different than Goy and Goyim. All right. Wasn't this powerful? This ended the Parashat. Praise HaRuachEliyahu. Wasn't that great? That's a great Parashat of Lech Lecha. And it just gives you some great edification and the breakdown of certain words, right? And remember, you can email me at eagleshavenministry@yahoo.com, as you see in the bottom of the screen, and I will send you a physical copy of this, or I can send you a PDF file or a file copy, and you can print it up yourself, and I could email you a link, and you can email it, download it yourself, upload it, and print it yourself out. Along with other information you want with me, I'll be glad to send you. Praise HaRuachEliyahu. Well, I want to close for now because we close here. I'm going to continue on the next few hours teaching and preparing the book of Yesher's story of Abraham. The detailed story since he's a young baby boy all the way up growing up to his time of his death. So I want you to stay tuned, and it's going to be called same Abram to Abraham, but based parallel comparison of the book of Sefer Yasher, and it'll have a different face on it, so you can see the story of Abraham. Parashat Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha. Amen. Thank you for joining me and tuning in. Thank you for don't forget to subscribe, and also tell others to watch these parashats with us. Exciting parashats. I got some exciting recordings coming in. We're going to be sharing some exciting other things coming in. They have to be edited and uploaded. We just thank you for the opportunity to come into your home and fellowship with you in the Shem of Yahushua HaMashiach. Hallelujah. We give praise and honor to Yahuwah, the Shem, our Abba Yahuwah. Hallelujah.